Welcome to the Chief of Cybersecurity podcast, where we discuss relevant information concerning the cybersecurity workforce, business development, and best practices, made possible by CMIS. Learn more at cmis.net. And for a list of authorized publications, visit DewayneHart.com. And now, here's your host, Dewayne Hart.
Hello, everyone. I am back again on the Chief of Cybersecurity podcast session. You know, this Season 1 has been going pretty good. Now we're up to episode 12. And one of the things I thought about prior to developing, this current podcast session, what would be important for cybersecurity professionals and also for individuals that was trying to learn more about cybersecurity. And through my research, I discovered that there's a lapse in understanding how to use cybersecurity tools, okay? And that lapse in understanding is because there's a lot of emphasis put on just using those tools to drive reporting. But cybersecurity tools go far beyond the need of just driving reporting. When I was at a conference about a couple weeks ago, it was called TechNet, which is a conference that's held by AFCEA. And I noticed that there were so many different tools that was being developed for the government, from artificial intelligence to threat intelligence to vulnerability management, to vulnerability scanning itself, malware, whatever type of software tool is required to operate cybersecurity was there. But also what I noticed was that majority of these tools were similar in so many fashions. If you really looked at the user interface of most of these tools, you could see that most of them had assets named metrics, dashboards. Maybe the color scheme was different. But really to take a look at all those tools, I gave a deep thought. I said, okay, how is people really using these tools? And then I thought about that through my history, I've only seen people make effective use of those tools by just doing reporting. So today we kind of want to discuss that topic and to see how cybersecurity tools are used and how they can go beyond reporting. So to make this podcast session very successful, we have certain goals that's going to be discussed. One is I am going to define what are cybersecurity tools. Yeah, because for the user out there that really trying to learn about cybersecurity, that is most important. So you'll learn about tools, and then what's the cybersecurity connection? Yeah, see that is very important because why do we have these tools for cybersecurity and how do they connect to cybersecurity? And then next, I'm going to roll into a policy and tuning your tools. This is about calibrating. If you think about a car, right? If you have a tool that you use for your car, every once in a while, you have to calibrate that tool. And if that tool is not calibrated, then you get wrong results, false results. All right. The next phase is training employees. Training employees is very important. Okay, because if you're not training your employees, they're not going to know how to use those tools. Next is maximizing feature requests. A feature request is a recommendation that you submit to a vendor to state that cybersecurity tool can operate efficiently if a certain change was made. And a lot of times, if you can discover some feature requests and you submit those to the vendor, they can make changes to those tools because you are not the only one that's using the tools. There are millions of other people that are using the tool as well. So what happens is the user experience has to be modernized and has to be grown. So when you submit those feature requests, then it makes the tools a lot more user-friendly for everyone else. Then last is what have I experienced? This is my own personal introduction to my experience with the use of cybersecurity tools and some of the nuances and some of the pros and the cons and some of the effective ways that I feel that these tools could be used. So let's dive into this for a second here. What are cybersecurity tools? So we know that tools help to resolve problems. If you think about, as I said before, if you have a tool that you use for your car, and if that tool is used over a period of time, that tool itself has to be calibrated. All right. And if it's not calibrated, then you cannot resolve problems. So that's what cybersecurity tools are for. They are there to resolve problems. Now these tools are not physical tools. They are software tools. All right. Because they're software packages that are used to resolve certain problems that cybersecurity needs are there. Okay. And they provide resources to capture data and make informed decisions, which is the core of these tools itself, because there's so many different data feeds. And so what happens is that these tools are taking all this different data in from like different access points and different sites and different type of other networks, and taking that data, and it correlates that data and to give users this pretty picture, which is a user interface based on metrics. Okay. Now, there are different type of vendors that actually have tools on the market. You can go and research on Google for Tenable. You can go Arsigsight. You can go Rapid7. You can go Splunk. All of these tools are similar in so many fashion, but they're different as well. Endpoint protection is also another tool that is used for cybersecurity. When you think of endpoint protection, think about your laptop and think about malware, and actually think about data loss prevention. Now, endpoint protection is the end device on your network, okay? And the end device is usually a laptop or a mobile cell phone or a tablet, right? Those are endpoint devices. Threat intelligence and detection is also another feature that you get from these cybersecurity tools as well, too, because threat intelligence takes all this actionable intelligence data, maybe from the Department of Homeland Security and maybe other different type of feeds over the world, and it tries to correlate that data together so that organizations can actually see what type of threats are out there in the environment. Vulnerability management is for all those software patches that you have to patch on your enterprise. Microsoft releases patches every month, and organizations have to scan their enterprises using vulnerability scanners like Tenable, Nessus, Rapid7, and some of the other ones out there like Beyond Trust, Retina. Okay, those are just some of the vulnerability scanning tools out there. One of the other major features is malware defense. Okay, malware. You have tools that will help you detect malware, and also to make sure that your malware is up to date on your system. Security analytics is another feature as well too, because with the security analytics, it's going to give you some actionable data. It's going to say, okay, over the past 30 days, you were able to remediate 2,000 issues on your enterprise. Or it will say, okay, your environment has about 2,000 threats on the enterprise itself, and this is the recommendation that you can use to remediate it. And also, too, it helps out as far as trying to determine the overall scope of the enterprise in your risk. Okay, so now that is what a cybersecurity tool is. All right, so let's look at the connection. Okay, all right, here's the connection for cybersecurity itself. It will simplify security. So that means that the human eye cannot process 2 million rows of data. This is why you need tools in place. Gain visibility. So what visibility is saying is that for those 2 million issues that you have, you can stay visible and you have a single eye on what's going on your particular enterprise. Protect, detect, and remediate. All right. It will allow you to protect data, to detect issues, and to remediate issues on your enterprise as well, too. All right. Process data at rapid speed, artificial intelligence. Okay, there are a lot of tools out there that have artificial intelligence background. I like to call them robotic software programs, right? Because with those programs, it speeds up the data processing that is required for all these data feeds and all these different type of threats and vulnerabilities on your enterprise. If you think about the amount of data traffic that is happening every day on an enterprise, the human eye cannot process that information. So you need these software tools and robotic software to go help you out. Proactive defense. Proactive defense is straightforward, right? It will allow you to become proactively so that you can resolve issues before they become critical. If you have a cybersecurity tool out there that can detect issues ahead of an incident, it reduces the amount of time, labor, and also risk that you have on your enterprise. So you think about a cybersecurity tool, it can help to actually proactively defend your enterprise. Some of the other factors too is that you can actually, for risk on your enterprise too, you can actually see the risks that are actually on your enterprise, and you can kind of take some type of action at trying to remediate those risks as well too. Now to make these cybersecurity tools effectively work, organization have to policy tune those tools. Now this is where we move into calibration. All right. So for you people that are car mechanics or people that work with very, very handheld tools in IT, we call it policy tuning. Okay. I remember when I first started the industry years ago, and I was working on a McAfee EPO orchestrator system, and it was called HBSS. There were times that some of the policies were outdated. Now policies are like signature files, right? Let's say, for instance, if you have a SQL program that is set at version 2.0, HBSS is set up to go monitor SQL version 2.0. All right. Now, if the vendor states, okay, we're going to update to 3.0, then you need to change the policy in your system to go reflect 3.0, because if someone installs 3.0 on this system, HBSS will block it. Okay. It is that critical. This is why policy tuning is very important. Now, policy tuning also move into looking at your employees and how they update these vulnerability scanners, because they're plugging in updates for different vulnerability feeds that come out every month. And if you don't have your plugins updated, then you're going to get false results out, or you may not be able to detect different kind of results. I have seen at plenty of time when I looked at a vulnerability report and it gave a false positive out. Now when I look at the false positive, I said, we actually remediated that last week, but, it still shows up as an issue. All right. And it showed up as an issue because the plugin update was not done. And, a lot of times you can have these systems set up where the system will automate the updates for you. Okay. Here's some secrets here for like this policy tuning. Keep abreast of vulnerabilities. And also, too, make sure that threat intelligence is accurate, okay? This is part of policy tuning here, because if you're feeding bad data into your programs, you're going to get bad data out, all right? Now, a portion of this is to make sure that your employees know their place in this world of cybersecurity tools. Because now we're going through a stage of digital modernization, and in the core of digital modernization, employees have to be trained. Because you think about the environment that brings on a brand new tool. When you bring that tool on board, your employees have to be trained on how to use that tool. Now, this does not mean that you start to train them once you get the tool on board. The training probably starts about 3 to 4 months prior to the tool being installed on your environment. Okay. And employees have to be trained. Because if there's any type of knowledge gap in using these tools, it creates risk. Just think about someone that works in a SOC, and it's a brand new tool that been deployed, and that person fails to identify a security breach, okay, because they don't know how to use the tool. And what happens is that creates risk on your enterprise. That's why knowledge gaps can create risk. One of the things I would like to say that new tools are fun. People like to use new tools, all right? I know for me, if I can get a 30-day type of use of a brand new tool, and if I can use it at the house and just see how it operates, I feel good about that. And see, new tools are fun because it gives people exposure to like different ways to process different type of cybersecurity data and also to get the actual data that they need. Okay. Also, think about the value proposition out of a brand new tool. It brings out better skill sets. All right. Because people work on a job and people want to get the best in the breed of all the skill sets. All right. And that's what a brand new tool can offer. Some of the ways you can get training also too is that the vendor themselves have training on YouTube that is free. If you search on YouTube for something like Splunk, and there are some small videos that people can go through and learn how to use the tool. All right. One of the ways I like to look at this too is to say that when you train your employees, right, it is a part of career development too. And as your employees become smarter, then it kind of helps out the organization as well. In my book, The Cybersecurity Mindset, I actually had a discussion about modernizing the workforce. All right. And, you know, everything that I stated here, especially about digital modernization and training employees, aligns over to that chapter as well. All right. So we talked about policy tuning. So we talk about the employers. So we talk about the tool, and we talk about the cybersecurity connection. Okay. Let's just roll now and talk about the vendors. All right. Maximizing your feature requests. Okay. Feature requests are as simple as if you are using a tool and if you notice that you're trying to filter for data, and if you have to go through 8, maybe 9 different steps to actually get the data, you may find a simpler way that if a feature was installed in that application, you could probably do it in 2 steps. Here's an example. Picture this. You are trying to filter for data, and the only filters that you had was 7, 15, 30, 60, or 90 days, right? And let's say if you want to filter for something for 10 days. So that means that you have to filter for 15 days and then aggregate that data and only get the information for the 10 days. Well, what if you develop a feature request that said, okay, I think that should be an explicit date range set. And on that explicit date range, you can say from day 1 through 10, I want to get that data. And if you submit that feature request to the vendor, then it makes it easier because the default filters such as 7, 15, 30, 60, and 90 days isn't really serving you. And, you know, maybe it's a certain time period that you want to get. Maybe it's from midnight of Saturday up until noon on Monday. All right. So that's what a feature request does. All right. It allows you to be a sponsored person because a lot of time the technology teams from these different vendors will go reach out to you because it helps the vendors out because they can provide a better service to the industry. Increase your tool or user experience. Yes, because you think about the user experience, right? You know, users want things that are very simple. If you create a tool that is very complex, then it's counter, you know, it actually defeats the purpose of either using a tool itself. So when you think about that, That is very important when you submit a feature request. Okay. Something else that help to increase tool service for the industry. Yes, I said that, and I'm gonna repeat that again because it's all for the industry. Because the industry is using the tool. Industry is all those other companies that are spending $500,000 up to $5 million to go purchase a licensed copy of these tools every year. All right, and you can add value to the industry as well. All right. So now speaking of that $500,000 to $5 million, I'm going to roll into some of the experiences that I had. Okay. I've seen in the past where some organizations probably don't spent $1 to $2 million on these software tools, and then they realize that it's a challenge to get these tools to work on the enterprise. Okay. Through my experience, I have noticed that there have been some things that could have made these tools a little bit more use and a little bit more effectively. And a lot of that happens because there's no pre-planning. So what have I experienced? Okay. No testing before install. You always got to test the tool out before you install it on the system. Okay. As I said before, it is a push to focus more so on reporting, but you have to look at the effective use of the tool itself. All right. All the metrics that you can get from the tool. All right. One of the things I noticed is that a lot of organizations like to do their analysis on paper. If you purchase the right tool, then you don't have to do your analysis on paper. All right. There's no integrations. This means that through the testing, the tool wasn't properly integrated on the enterprise, and also too, the tool itself gives different data results than some other tool. So if both of those could be integrated together, which are those two tools, then you could correlate that data and you can get the best type of results. Think about an enterprise that is using Microsoft SCCM, and think about a vulnerability scanner. I have seen many enterprises that struggle to say, okay, SCCM gives me data that actually looks different from your vulnerability result. And it can be asset names. Well, what if there was a way to correlate all that data together? Currently, I've seen that some organizations are using APIs and hiring individuals that can program in Python to go create proprietary users dashboards. Okay. And I've seen some organizations that are actually doing it, and it seems to work out well. And what you get out of that is easier analytics. Okay. Some of the other things that I have seen with these tools is that they accelerate remediation. All right. You do not have to spend 20 million hours trying to remediate vulnerabilities. If you have the right tool in place, you can actually deploy a patch out to maybe 1,000 or 2,000 devices, and pretty much you can use your tool to check it out and to see what they patch. Okay. Tools are different. Yes. You can take two different type of vulnerability tools and you can install on enterprise. You probably get different results because of the signature files. All right. So I've seen organizations that have used one vulnerability management tool for their infrastructure devices like routers, switches, and firewalls. Then they use another vulnerability management tool for their endpoint devices like desktops. Okay. And if it works for the enterprise, then, it's the way to go. And then there are certain enterprises that will install different tools that are doing the same jobs, and they both give two different types of results. All right. I always like to say is that if you test it out prior to you putting it on your enterprise, then you can reduce those type of issues. All right. So we know that the tools are different, and also too, think about the workforce skill sets, because the workforce skill sets are changing. And I've seen that happen because there are brand new tools that are developing every day, because we have robotic software. that is being placed on enterprises. So when you think about these tools, think about the fact is these tools are just not for reporting. All right. There are more effective ways of using tools. Now, I will admit that there's certain people that do not use these tools every day, and there are some people that use them every day. But still, organizations that purchase these tools, and if you spend $500,000 up to $5 million on the software license, you want to get the best use of that tool. Trust me. So also think about, as I said before, is that the workforce is changing. All right. And as the workforce change, so does people behavioral patterns. Because as of now, if you think about cybersecurity, if you think about the use of a tool, and you think about what is a person's perception of using those tools, it can go make a difference on whether an organization can effectively get great use out of that tool or not. All right. And speaking of behavioral patterns, that seems to be one of the critical issues that is upcoming in this cybersecurity. And also in my book, The Cybersecurity Mindset, I actually wrote a piece under the chapter called The Inclusive Culture that actually talk about behavioral patterns and how do you really install positive behavior in your environment. What are the norms? What are the norms that you should be seeing? All right. And I think that this podcast session here has been very, very fun. But the next one is really going to carry us to the next level because I am going to be talking about how does human behavior affect cybersecurity success. All right. So hang with me and I'll see you in episode 13.
You've been listening to the Chief of Cybersecurity podcast, where you have gained relevant knowledge to enhance your cybersecurity mindset. Be sure to visit DewayneHart.com to learn more about authored publications, show notes, and discover more information concerning cybersecurity.